So that's James's salad for today with the vegan keto, I guess raw feta. He's having some miso soup and some apple pie smoothie. That's my dinner. It's the Greek salad, well, Greek sushi, and then with the salad. We're going to talk about patience just a little bit. Mostly talk about Silent Witness season 28, and then James is going to continue on about The Longest Hatred. So, lots of fun in store today. So, I'm going to show you my outfit for today. It's short shorts. And I know I told you earlier that jeans are no good for diet, but this is the one exception. These little pair of jean shorts, as long as they're a little bit loose on me, I've been able to wear them even with the, you know, not so good back sometimes. So, yeah. I'm gonna move this in a little bit closer, so it's mostly gonna be on James, because it's pretty breezy, and I don't know if you'll be able to hear us past the wind. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I'm gonna let James talk about Silent Witness a little bit. I have to get some information out of the house. I'm really disorganized today. I don't know what's wrong with me. You guys are sneaking out.
Anyway, Silent Witness looks like a BBC program. It's amazing how many, you know, if you look at BBC, you'd figure all detective agencies and police departments were run by women.
It's even windy right
like,
here.
So much for verisimilitude.
I know, it's, honestly, it even kind of annoys me, and I wouldn't think it would, but there's, yeah, so many women in charge, so many, and if they're not women, oh well, they're certainly, they have a very dark complexion or something like that. It's, come on now. But I don't know what the game is with that. I don't know. The game is,
women can do it. Get out there and do it, women. Now, I'd like to see every police department be 50% women. But,
sure.
When I was working, I wasn't on the police force,
yeah.
But I was working at the cop shop.
Well, the problem I have is the body positive women.
10%.
If I don't want to see the big women on the police force.
And they had a couple on this show, didn't they? What's going on?
I mean, they're not going to, especially when I see them chasing after the bad guy. Come on now. No. That's
They've actually got to pass physicals, so I think even
and they should. They should have to pass physicals, and they should have to keep passing physicals.
Yeah, so there were some guy cops that were incredible, you know, like there wasn't donuts and pizza. I don't know
if they don't make it, you know, if they don't pass the physical, well, I guess they're driving a bus for the city or something like that.
Being security guard or
whatever. Well, it should be a city job because they should still get their...
Oh, if they fail. Yeah,
right? Anyway, I put patience on top because honestly, it's kind of different and I like that. And so I'll talk about patience just briefly of what the gist is because I've only watched one disc of it so far and there's two in this set. And this is from a little while back, so 2024, so I'm hoping that there's another one that I can get out of, like done another, because it's actually pretty well done. So, this is day 3 of me being caffeine free, and I actually feel great today. So, I had a couple days there where I felt like I was dragging myself along, and my workouts weren't going great, and I was doing the taking in beet in the morning to boost my athletics performance, but that certainly didn't seem to be working nearly as well as caffeine. And now day 3, caffeine free, and yeah, the beet's working just fine. I did a good workout this morning, and had it not been gusting to 100 kilometers an hour today, we might have actually...
Did it actually get up?
Yeah, it did. I looked at that. It's going to be the same tomorrow, I think.
Well,
So anyway, it's funny because this morning I was thinking, like, I had a bit of a headache yesterday, and I thought, well, what did it? Was it the fact that my body wants the caffeine, and it's like, come on, I'm gonna give you a headache until you give me what I want? Or was it the fact that I'd taken St. John's wort and then tried to get a little bit of sun? Maybe a bad idea, seeing as the St. John's wort makes a person photosensitive, or increases photosensitivity, whatever. Well, anyway, so I got a message today. I stuck this on, and right in the first episode it said, this Patience Evans, that's the character that Ella Maisie Purvis plays in this, she said the coffee roasting process produces acrylamide, a known carcinogen. So that deterred me from going for the caffeine, and I'm glad that I didn't go for the caffeine, because I had a good workout and I feel great today. So I'm now off the caffeine again. Good. And I feel good about it. So yeah, that's all I really wanted to mention about this. I'll give you the gist of what it's about. It's she's autistic patients, and I think that was right. I mean, I just started watching it, and then I fell asleep. But anyway, wow, that's windy. That is some gust. So yeah, she really puts things, she solves puzzles really well. So and her father was a police officer, and so she was interested in his work, and he was interested in sharing, having this relationship with her, you know, this bonding thing where they shared this. Anyway, so she's actually pretty interesting to watch. And yeah, Silent Witness season 28. I like that they the new character of the midget. Is that proper? What's proper now? I don't know.
Midget name. And
she's lovely. She is absolutely adorable.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they managed to find the most beautiful little person they could for this role, and I really like her. It's a great addition. I don't like the elderly woman who seems to be in charge or whatever. She seems to be useless. Actually, I don't know why she's a part of the team.
Well.
And why the piano's there. I mean, I love listening to some Chopin and whatever, but come on now. That's kind of stupid. Yeah. So, anyway, you want to talk about this some more, or Longest Hatred? What do you want to talk about?
I should talk about the Longest Hatred.
Okay, Longest Hatred, go ahead.
So, yesterday, whenever it was, I got down to, before the camera kicked out,
I think I've sand in my eye.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
What a day. The Babylonian captivity, and you know, the great powers didn't like these people in the Shatter Belt, in the so-called Holy Land. We're going to call it Israel. But we're going to extend it far north of Israel to the Bekaa Valley. That's up in Lebanon, I believe. And what the Bible calls it, entering in of Hamath, or Hamath. Hamath in biblical terms is now Hama. It existed way back when. The Assyrians recorded. It's not as though the compilers of the Hebrew scripture were making up stuff whole hog and out of whole cloth and all this sort of stuff. You secular human people who are styling themselves as secular humanists, you're not very human. So you're just going to have to get down to it, that there's some there's not just a kernel of historical truth in parts of the Hebrew scripture, but there are several kernels. You know, they actually, for some of the latter-day history, they record Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar. We number him the second. There was actually Nebuchadnezzar the first, hundreds of years before Nebuchadnezzar the second. There were, they record Tiglath-Pileser, or Pileser, I prefer that pronunciation, and they record him by another name, Pul, P-U-L. He was, I think a lot of people thought that they were just making it up, the compilers, but then they found Tiglath-Pileser was called Pul in Babylon as well, not just in present-day Israel. And they recorded, after Tiglath-Pileser, they recorded Shalmaneser, we numbered him the fifth. They recorded Sargon, and we numbered him the second. They recorded Sargon's son, Sennacherib. They recorded Esarhaddon, grandson, Sargon, and the great-grandson, Ashurbanipal. They called him Osnapper, but they, you know, like these things happen. Things kind of get garbled, going from one language to another, and then getting passed down from hand to hand through several recensions and so on and so forth of a particular document. So, and the Assyrians recorded several biblical kings. They recorded Omri. They called Israel, in fact, is the 10 northern tribes. It's really less than 10, but they recorded it as Bit Omri, the house of Omri. They think they recorded Ahab, but they actually didn't. There was another king far to the north of Israel, around, I suspect it was Sumer or something like that. It was called Sumer, north of Sidon and Tyre, on the Mediterranean coast. Still trying to figure out what the name of that place was. They read it Sirlai, something like that. I think that's Israel. Well, it's the only time the Assyrians recorded Israel by that name, if indeed it is Israel. Ordinarily they called it Omri.
You just about got eaten, little fella.
Is that a
Box elder bug.
I figured it was a few of them around. Anyway, they recorded Hosea, they call it Hosea or something like that. They recorded Menahem. They recorded Pekah. So how many is that? Well, that's quite a few, right? Omri, Menahem, Pekah, Hosea. They recorded Hezekiah. The first four I mentioned were kings of Israel, but
another one wants to get eaten.
The Hezekiah was king of Judah. I don't know if he recorded any others, but that's a fairly significant record. Anyway, I mean, these were relatively clunky kind of king. Anyway, the kings of Egypt wouldn't like coming stomped, particularly Israel, you know, because they had to come stomping through. There were only a few places they could come through. When they were coming through Israel, they had to go, present-day Israel, they had to go through pass just south of Megiddo. And this has been a place where major league battles have been fought going back to the time of King Thutmose III, or however you want to mispronounce his name. And that's on the redating is somewhere around 950 BC. It's dated very incorrectly, somewhere around 1450 BC. Somewhere around 950 BC. The Armageddon actually refers to a battle in Megiddo. It means it's Greek for Har-Megiddo, something like that, Armageddon. And it was based on a battle that was fought by the Egyptians again against the King of Judah, I think. What was his name? Josiah, something like that. A little bit before 600 BC. World War II, there was a big battle. World War I, rather, a big battle fought there. The English, I guess, against the Turks and stuff like that. So, you know, English aren't native to there, neither are the Turks. The Turks actually are native to Siberia, if you actually want to check things out, their ancestors. Anyway, just a place where people go to fight. The big powers go to fight there. It's rough territory, and the people who live there have to be rough because they're having to deal with these big powers stomping in one way or another. They don't know who they should be kind of allied with. Like who's going to come out on top amongst the, let's say, the Egyptians and the Assyrians, or the Egyptians and the Babylonians later on. Who do they go? Yeah, they aren't really terribly loyal to either one. It's just like who's going to cause us less damage. And if they pick to support the losing side, then they get stomped on. That's what happened. The Bible says, or Hebrew Scripture mentions, there got to be conspiracy between, I think it's Hosea and So, king of Egypt. So, yeah, there are mistakes in the Bible. That's really Si, and that means son in Egyptian, and it's really Sipta. The Assyrians record them as Sipa. How much time? 10?
Yeah.
Yeah, somewhere around. Okay, so they just hate these small little peoples located in shatter belts. It's not just there. It's like in former Indochina, Vietnam, and a constellation of other countries. Vietnam has its own little empire going there right now. North Vietnam, really should call it Annam. It's an Annamese empire. They don't have a right to South Vietnam, former Cochin in China. Nor do they have. No, it's not Annam. It's Tonkin. Annam is in the middle. The Tonkinese empire doesn't have any right to the middle part, former middle part of Vietnam. But same thing in the Balkans. You get the great powers wanting to stomp in there, stuff like that. Got a bunch of hardy mountain or hill people, and they hate them. It's the same thing in the Caucasus. The Georgians, the Armenians, the whatevers, the Azerbaijanians, all sorts of Circassians, kind of on the, I think they call them the Caucasian forelands or something like that. Cis-Caucasian forelands in Russia. All sorts of people mixed up in the Caucasus Mountains, and they're hardy, and they're much hated by the people on the plains to the south. And Turks have it in for the Armenians, and they almost wiped them off the face of the earth, really, over the course of history, especially recent history, weirdly enough. And Russians hate them too. You read Lev Tolstoy, I think they call him Leo, but Lev Tolstoy, about fighting against the people in these capitalists, Grozny, the Chechens. The Russians hate them, right? And the Chechens, with a lot of legitimacy, hate the Russians. But anyway, hatred in these areas, these shatter belt areas, or shatter zone areas, between the great mountainous, rough, hilly regions in between the Great Plains, where the so-called great civilizations have developed. I wouldn't call Russia a great civilization, but what the heck, it hasn't been actually even that great. I'm sure Putin is gnashing his teeth hearing this. Hey, laddie. Anyway, just looking at our dog down here. He's kind of snooping and sniffing around. One of those. So then the Persians came along. The Jews were taken off into captivity. About 75 years later, 2 generations plus later, the then Persian king let whatever Jews wanted to go back to their native land go back, and they did. So they rebuilt Jerusalem. The folks that had taken over didn't take too kindly to them, and They're much like the Palestinians, not taking kindly to the Jews moving back to Palestine, starting maybe 1895 or something like that. They resorted to, well, the Palestinians, just out-and-out terrorism and stuff like that. They're still doing it, of course, and they're doing it here in Canada. They're trying to ethnically cleanse Jews out of Canada. It's stunning. We shouldn't allow one, and I mean it, one Palestinian. They've been a curse to every society they've gone to. They're absolutely shameful. You listen to that, Alan Nyad? I want you to do a show on I think in the last week, 3 synagogues have been hit. Is it in Toronto or something like that? Had bullets fired into them. You know, like, it's stunning. Like, so Palestinians are trying to do ethnic cleansing. You know, they'll go into a Jewish area, long-term Jewish territory in Toronto. Go back to the slums of Europe, stuff like that, through megaphones and stuff like that. Why we let Palestinians in and let them do that? That should be a felony. It should be. They should be doing serious jail time. If they don't have Canadian citizenship, they should be deported. If they do have Canadian citizenship, long prison terms for doing this kind of stuff. In France, they're stomping, of course, with a serious left-wing support, stomping through the streets, yelling "Death to the Jews." You know, it's one thing to yell "Death to Israel," but going through stomping that, anyone who's not a French citizen should be deported automatically. Anyone who is a French citizen should be. Death to the Jews. That's Nazi territory. They should be in jail for long, long prison terms. Should be a serious felony. Anyway, great hatred. The Greeks, after Alexander the Great took over the Persian Empire, largely lock, stock, and barrel for a short time. They lost a lot of their Alexander's eastern conquests or whatever, but the Greeks didn't take too kindly to the Jews not being so cosmopolitan, as maybe the Greeks styled themselves as. And the Greeks had a long history of oppressing the Jews in the Jewish homeland. And the Romans took over the Greek mantle. I think they basically took over Greece 146 BC, something like that. And the Romans just didn't take kindly to the Jews not worshiping the emperor. They looked kind of recalcitrant because they didn't worship the Roman gods or whatever type of gods. The Romans were fairly Catholic. When it came to worshiping other people's gods, you know, some people started worshiping a Persian kind of entity, Mitra. They started worshiping Isis, an Egyptian goddess, and so on and so forth. The Romans, it got so bad from their point of view. It really wasn't bad. They were just, the Romans were nasty. Someone wrote about them. They make a wasteland and call it peace. Let me repeat that. It's about the Romans. Someone said, and I'm afraid it's somewhat accurate, they make a wasteland and they call it peace. So what they did with the Jews is they beat them up. The Jews just weren't that terribly cooperative, and they deported them in 70 AD. Deportations rarely take, how much time left?
5 minutes.
5 minutes. They rarely stick. You know, like the Acadians, so many of them ended down in Louisiana. They're deported by the English at least once. I think it might have taken several times, but we'll just say once. And they're called Acadian. They're called Cajuns in Louisiana. Yeah? Louisiana is named after King Louis, one of the King Louis of France. Okay. There's, New Orleans. Orleans is Orléans. It's, I mispronounced it, of course, but it's a little bit better than Orleans. It's a place in France, okay? It's kind of west of Paris. So, so they were deported, but you go back there now, Prince Edward Island, province in Canada, it's called Prince Edward Island. It's named after, guess what? A Prince Edward. But originally it was called l'Île de Saint-Jean, the Isle or Island of St. John. presumably St. John the Baptist, but maybe the one that wrote the Book of Revelations, or the one, maybe the same one, that wrote the Gospel according to John, and maybe the same one that wrote, I think it was 3 books or something like that, letters or epistles in the New Testament. Okay, so it didn't take, and so about 2 generations later, there are a lot of Jews that drifted back, and Emperor Hadrian didn't take terribly to that. He really liked arts and all this sort of stuff, Greek culture. He didn't care that much about people not cooperating terribly much with his way of looking at things, and so he deported them again, 135 AD, and guess what? It didn't stick. You know, like in modern times, in my dad's lifetime, there were Jews still, and especially in Hebron and Jerusalem, people who go around and say, well, they got deported. Yeah, people get deported and they drift back. Deportations don't stick. They have to really be accompanied by an immense amount of persecution. So the most effective deportation in history, possibly, when it comes to the Jews, is what the Germans did by wiping out about half the European Jews. And I can't imagine any Jew wanting to move back to Germany. I think some might have. I don't know. Yeah, it would be, suicide on not so much the installment plan, but it's something like postpone suicide or delayed suicide. Anyway, so this thing starts with Christian hatred of Judaism. No, it wasn't the Christians who deported the Jews out of the Holy Land or Israel. It was present-day Israel. It was the Romans, idolatrous or whatever, to use a Christian term, Romans who did it. Well, it didn't start with the Catholic Church. And it didn't really start with the Romans, it didn't start with the Greeks before them, it didn't start with the Babylonians before the Greeks, and it didn't start with the Assyrians before the Babylonians, it didn't start with the Assyrians, it started really with the Egyptians. And then the neighboring folks, including the Amalekites, who were, everyone hated them. They're called the Haparu in the Amarna tablets. Now, that is the same, basically comes from the same term for Hebrew. Haparu just means robber or something like that, plunderer. Someone that's into raping and stuff like that. That's R-A-P-I-N-E, okay? So, anyway, they were nasty, and they go, like fall on caravans and stuff like this. The Amarna tablets, like they're serving the same function they served in the Bible, just going out there, not staying in their homeland, but messing around with their neighbors, and so on and so forth. So the king of Babylon was worried about them. King of Egypt was worried about them. Hittite king, well, I think he was allied with him for a while, so on and so forth. How much time? 2?
Nope.
Pretty well done.
Yep.
I'll tune in, because now we're going to start with the Christian thing. But the Christian hatred of Judaism started 2,500 years